No, that was beautiful. Well done. Oh, right, okay. I know who's coming on stage. Do you know who's coming on stage? It's our favorite angel, Misha. He's alright. Come and sing me tonight. He's alright. Come and make it alright.
Hello, everyone. You can't see what we see up here, which is just bright lights.
It's like a big car headed right.
There are four, we can see the silhouettes of 4 heads in the front. And as far as I know, there are only 10 people in total here. 10 very loud people, yeah.
10 very loud people.
That was awkward. But he just walked away. It's so weird. I was just about to talk to him. He has no social graces, that guy. Hi, everyone. I have been in Louisiana. I've been in Louisiana a lot lately. But I spent the last few days here working on my new show, Road Food. And I'm so full. There is such a thing as gumbo saturation, and I've reached it, just so you know. I also learned all kinds of fascinating things, like, for example, people have not really recovered from Hurricane Ida. What a devastating situation. So sorry for those of you who live around here who had to endure that. That's a real trauma. And I also learned that Cajun people are from Nova Scotia. Who knew? A lot of people, not me. Hi. Well, that's nice to see you all. It's been so long since we've been able to get together like this, and it feels so nice to be in your company again. I still can't see you, which is a little weird. Is it possible to bring up the house lights just a little bit? That's nice. Now I feel like I'm in the company of people again. Does anyone have any questions for me? Anything they want to talk about? Okay, great. Sure. I don't know how this works, but no? Okay, yeah. There's a microphone over there. This is the first time I've ever been at a convention and not seen a line of people at the microphone. So, there's one person. Hello, person.
Hello.
Everyone has run out of questions, finally. Hi.
So my question is, if you had the opportunity to, I guess maybe retcon something that happened like in an episode or like an arc for your character over this series of the show, like what would it be?
What would that phrase that you just said mean?
Like retcon? Like kind of wipe it out?
Retcon? What
retcon.
What does that mean?
It means like to erase it from like the history of the show. Like if something happened that you think was maybe out of character for Castiel, like if you could change it.
Oh, I see. Yes. I would say that, if I could write something out of the show, it would be when Castiel was forced by death. Was it death? One of the horsemen of the apocalypse. I don't remember. To get on his hands and knees and eat ground hamburger meat out of a dog dish. Famine. It was famine.
Yeah.
Thank you for fact checking me. I would undo that from my memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's really just selfish as an actor. I didn't like doing that.
I mean, it's a
How much of that did you end up having to eat, or did you all spit it out into spit buckets?
Well, it wasn't actually raw ground meat.
Yeah.
It was raw vegetarian ground meat, which actually isn't that much better. And I had to eat some. When I was new on the show, I was new in every sense of the word, and I didn't know certain tricks. So I don't know if you know this, but when you're watching a scene on a TV show, it's not actually unfolding exactly as it appears on screen. Like, for example, we do multiple takes from different camera angles. Did you know that? You're like, yes, I'm not stupid. And I didn't quite know that when I started on Supernatural. So there was a scene in, we were in a bar at it was a strip club, and Dean is trying to school Castiel in some of the ways of the world, and I have a beer, and it's a pint glass of beer. And we did one take, and I drank the whole beer in like one guzzle. But it was kind of funny, because it was like Castiel doesn't really even know, like you don't just like chug a whole pint of beer. And then the director was like, that was great, let's go again. Did another take, chugged the whole pint of beer again. And then we did a third take. I was like, oh, okay. And I chugged the whole pint of beer again, and the director, we moved the cameras around, and the director laughed, and he's like, Misha, that's hilarious, that chugging the beer thing. Do that again for the next take. And the first two takes where I chugged the whole beer, I had not been on camera. Rookie mistake. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Tanya. I'm actually coming out of law school. I wasn't expecting to be first. But,
Wait, I heard Tanya, I think.
yes.
But then nothing after that.
I'm actually at a loss because I wasn't expecting to be first on the list. But, what's your favorite memory from the show? Like a personal experience with the boys?
What's my favorite memory from the show? Oh, I don't have a favorite memory from the show. I do have some there's an occasional in my memory bank peppering of fond experiences, a lot interspersed with long periods of darkness.
Maybe your most embarrassing memory then.
Oh, great, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. My most embarrassing moment? There are a lot of those to choose from as well. One was, I have told this before, so those of you who have been to lots of conventions, you're going to hear a repeat. I had a scene where, it was a scene where Cass is punching out Azazel? No. Sam was possessed by
Gadriel.
Gadriel! Yes, God, I'm good at this. Okay, so Cass was going to punch out Gadriel, and Robert Singer was directing, and Robert Singer likes to do these sort of callbacks to like 1970s film tropes, and one of them was the punch directly to the camera. So rather than like, you know, me punching toward Jared's face, I was actually punching directly toward the camera. And then it was going to be a cut, and we'd, you know, reveal Sam on the ground. So, in the kitchen, everybody is in the other room. Jensen, the producers, director, we're all just watching on the monitors. And Jared walks around, and then the camera comes straight toward me, and then I punch directly into the lens, and everybody in the other room who was watching on the monitor started laughing. They're like, and then Jensen came up and he's like, that was a good one, that was hilarious. And I was like, what? And he said, oh. Oh, you weren't kidding? And apparently, as the camera came toward me and I punched the camera, they played it back for me. And what it looked like was this. So that was not great. Thanks for bringing that up. How did it go from favorite memory to most embarrassing thing? You slipped that in there. Hi.
Hi, Misha. My question is, what about Castiel's legacy do you want people to remember?
What about what?
What about Castiel's legacy do you want people to remember?
Be true to yourself. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. I was not expecting to get chosen, so,
Okay, so if you sign up and you might get chosen, maybe just plan for that eventuality. It is possible, statistically possible, that you will be chosen if you put your name in the hat. And
it's kind of like prime numbers.
it's like prime numbers.
Like they're intimidating. That's true. Anyway, what songs do you need to have on a running playlist?
I don't need to have any specific songs on a running. Are you a runner?
I am.
Here's the thing for me, I have to switch the music. I get sick of it pretty quickly, which is really frustrating. Because here's my problem with running. So I'll be running, recently I've been letting Apple pick for me, like just for you, and then Apple pick makes a selection based on what they have seen me like or listen to in the past. And apparently, I listen to garbage, because that's all Apple ever plays for me. But I'll be running, and a new song will come up, and when I have an endorphin high going, everything seems great. So I'll favorite a song or add it to my, download the song, and then later when I'm in the car, I'll play it, and I'm like, why am I listening to this shit? And it's like, oh, I see, I favorited this song when I was high on life running. So it's a dangerous thing to do. I caution against liking or making any, don't make any decisions while you're running, because it's colored by a naturally occurring drug in your blood. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great, good talk.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, I'm Christina.
Hi, Christina.
So I was definitely not expecting to be
Okay.
also. But you know what? We'll go with it. We'll go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I also wasn't expecting this. I was completely blindsided by finding myself up on stage here. I was sitting peacefully in the green room, and suddenly I'm informed it's time to go on stage. And I said, I'm going on stage today?
Oh man.
I'm not. I didn't think my name was going to get picked.
But here we are.
But here I am.
Here we are. Okay, so.
And here you are.
And here I am.
And you're
Great.
piecing it together. Who did you think was going to get picked?
Not me. Anybody else but not me. Me and my friend were talking, and I was like, oh fuck, my name's up on there. Must have been up there.
Which one is you're Christina Miller?
I am. Yes.
Are you sure there's not another Christina Miller in the audience? Maybe.
There might be, I don't know.
Maybe you're taking someone else's spot. It also shows your seat number, huh?
Yes, it does.
Huh.
Yeah.
So we can tell when you come up to the microphone, everyone gets to see
Great.
how rich you are. I see how this goes.
I don't know. I just gave me a number and I thought, okay, it's fine. Anyway, so
Michaela, GA, what is that?
General admission, I think.
Okay, general
I
admission.
don't know. This is my first convention. I don't know. This is all
Okay.
new for me too. So.
What is K38? That's just your row and your seat number? Okay. Yeah, you think so. You you probably have been sitting there, right? I don't know. It's the lap that I was put in. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So, kill, marry, fuck as Castiel and as yourself. Yeah. I thought it was pretty epic too.
What were my choices?
So your kill, marry, fuck list as Castiel,
Yeah.
and you as yourself, Misha.
Okay.
So it's technically 2 questions.
Oh, of all people in the universe?
No! All the characters. Okay, sorry, on Supernatural.
Characters on Supernatural.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I work with these people. I still see them in a professional and social setting. I can't go, someone is undoubtedly recording this. It'll be posted online.
No, never.
Jared will be like, why didn't you fuck me? What's so bad about this? Why am I doing all this weightlifting if you don't want to fuck me? But he's just like, you know, he's good around the house.
Thank you.
Very uncomfortable with your question. Okay, there are three male characters from the show right behind you. Do you see them on the wall?
Yeah, I was loving on the
What is your KMF? It puts you in a spot, doesn't it?
I mean, of all the characters of the entire series.
No, that's your choices. Yeah.
Let me think about that.
You shouldn't have to think.
Well, when you have really three attractive men, it's kind of hard to pick.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, this is the conundrum that I found myself in.
Phil?
Is there someone that could remove the K38 seat from the room? Well, this has been an unpleasant exchange. Thank you very much. Hello. Hello?
Oh, hi, sorry.
Hi. It can't get any worse.
Well, I have a question that doesn't have anything to do with Supernatural.
Okay.
You being a father, I just wanted to know what your funniest memory as a father would be.
I don't know.
Yeah, you have to think about it.
What? Discount massage? That sounds weird. That is a funny story. Thank you for bringing it up. My kids, I mean all kids, I think, say the funniest things from time to time. And for some reason, particularly my daughter, she has a lot of real gems. But I don't think I have a funniest thing. My kids recently, we were all sitting around eating outside. I said, oh, I made dinner, I made tacos, and I brought the food outside. I was like, let's sit outside, this will be nice. And we sat outside, and then Mason picked up her taco and made it like she was gonna throw it at me. Like it was beans and cheese that were hot. And she made it like she was gonna throw it at me, and I was like, no, Mason. Actually, that's not funny, and you're not throwing your food. And she looked at me like, oh? Really? It's not funny? And I said, Mason, I'm serious. Do not. In that tone that a father can have, where there's a line in the sand, and everyone knows that the father is very serious, and frankly, quite scary. And
That's a joke.
And she just threw it in my face. And started laughing. And then Wes laughed, because it was funny because I had said no so sternly. And then I was still not laughing, and then Wes picked up some of his taco and threw it in my face as well.
You got the bat right.
And then I was like, my thought process was, why doesn't anyone listen to me? Like, what do I have to, why are they not even the slightest bit afraid of me? At some point, earlier that same week, I had said something like, you know, I laid down a law about something, and Wes just started laughing. And I was like, why? And he's like, I threatened him. I can't remember what the threat was. It was like, there was going to be some consequence. And he was like, there's not going to be a consequence. Shit! And anyway, long story short, I was like, all right, fine. We're having a food fight. And so I took a scoop of my warm beans with cheese and Tabasco and put it on my fork and flung it in Mason's face. And it just went straight like an eye patch, just like thwap right in her eye. And of course it's smothered in hot sauce, and she immediately starts screaming bloody murder. And I felt terrible. So the whole thing was a failure from beginning to end because they didn't listen to me, then they threw food in my face, and then I ended up looking like the asshole. Hi.
First off, I'd like you to know that my handwriting was so bad that they weren't actually sure if I got picked for this. So that's a fun time. Anyway,
congratulations on that.
Are there any plot holes or inconsistencies in the show that have driven you as crazy as they have some of us?
Well, I don't know. How crazy have you been driven?
Fairly.
What are some of them? I can't believe that you would say there were inconsistencies in Supernatural.
You're not going to pretend that there wasn't, are you, Misha?
What in God's name could you be talking about?
I could probably make a list for you if you wanted me to.
Give me one example.
No, I'm good.
No? You refuse to?
Yeah, fine.
You're pleading the fifth?
I'm pleading the fifth.
There were virtually no inconsistencies over the course of the 15 seasons on Supernatural. I mean, there were little, really subtle things from time to time, like, for example, Castiel, Metatron downloaded all pop culture references to Castiel at one point, and then for the next, I don't know, what, 8-9 years, Castiel had no idea what was going on in pop culture all the time. And then every once in a while he would again. So it was like selective amnesia. There were a lot of times when we would be on set and be like, Castiel reads somebody's mind or knocks them out or heals them. There were all these different things that we would do. And everyone would be like, what's the move? What's the move? Is your fingers on the forehead, palm on the shoulder, a thumb in the butt? What is it what is it he does to achieve this outcome? And a lot of times we'd just be like, listen, you know, the first AD would be like, Misha, listen, I don't know, just do something, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We have to move on. So it'd be like, all right.
I didn't know if you could
That's
still hear me for a
erasing
second.
just so you know,
I do believe that you
that one's erasing the memory with
your hand up so it counts.
Good talk.
Hi. Okay, so my question relates to some things that happen online. There is a trend of relating Taylor Swift songs to Dean and Cass's relationship. And now, I want you to, if you know Taylor Swift songs, to pick a song you think fits them. And if you don't, if you have some whimsical theory about why Taylor Swift and Dean and Cass go so well together.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about. So can you tell me more?
Well, Taylor Swift has re-released 2 albums in the past year, as well as released 2 brand new albums last year. And a lot of people find that the lyrics remind them of a lot of different things on Supernatural, but specifically of Dean and Cass's relationship, the tumultuous nature of it, as well as like the loving side of it. And they seem to think that they go really well together. Like, it's a really common thing that Taylor Swift fans love, to put Taylor Swift music to Dean and Cass, and there's like a...
Does anyone else know about this, or is this just her thing?
Thank you.
Really? It is a thing, huh?
It's really a thing, so I was
Can you give me an example of a good Taylor Swift, like some lyrics that really sell it?
Specifically lyrics from Evermore about like some flannel in November and a Chevy door. So it almost seems like she watches Supernatural. We cannot confirm or deny this. But.
Do you think that, I mean, I'm kind of going out on a limb, but it sounds like probably Taylor Swift writes a lot of slash fic?
I mean, it certainly seems like it.
It does seem like it, doesn't it?
It does.
Why do you think that she doesn't openly talk about that?
Well, she doesn't openly talk about a lot of things yet, but I feel like in the future she'll say she's an STL shipper or something.
Yeah, I think she is a shipper. Makes sense. Well, Taylor Swift, you're probably watching this on YouTube right now because you're such a super fan. And it's okay. It's okay. Don't be ashamed anymore. Thank you.
Hi. My handwriting is also really bad, so I wrote my name down as Blunt, but it's actually Grant. So nice to meet you.
What is your name?
It's Grant, like the president.
Oh, Grant. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So my question is, if you could ask Cass or any other character on the show for a piece of advice, what would it be and what do you think they'd say?
How do you not give up when the odds seem impossibly stacked against you?
What do you think they'd tell you?
I don't know. That's why I'm pausing. I think they would probably, I mean, look, I'm looking at these three characters on the wall behind you again. I think they all have probably different perspectives on that same question. I think Castiel would say that you just keep trying to do the right thing. I think Dean would probably say, how do we not give up when facing impossible odds? He would say, we just don't give up. We don't quit. And Sam would say, it's okay to quit. Sorry, I'm not totally perfect on,
I think it was
on Jared's voice, but it's pretty damn close. Don't give up, guys. I have been up against in my sphere, my personal sphere. I have some close friends who have been grappling with a really horrible, really challenging situation in their lives, and they're losing somebody to a really awful illness, and there is this. They have this driving compulsion to try to fix it, even when it's too late, and they know, their rational minds know there is no fixing, you know, and finding a way to be at peace with knowing when there's nothing left you can do is a really hard thing to achieve, and I think it's one of the characteristics of those three characters on that show. They never were at peace with giving up, rolling over, and giving in. Even when the odds were impossible, they always forged on. And it's interesting because I think that that's inspiring, and there's a good message in that. And I think there's also a time for accepting the things that we cannot change in life, and these guys sucked at that. So real life isn't quite the same thing. I don't know. I guess I brought up that particular question to ask advice about because it's something that I've seen some of my favorite people wrestling with in the last few weeks. It's challenging. Yeah. Sorry, I'm speaking elliptically and abstractly, but it actually had some personal resonance at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome back to New Orleans.
Thank you.
I hope you have a good time in our city.
I have.
Excellent.
I would say I had, even if I hadn't.
That's just,
Because that's the kind of people pleaser I am.
yeah, but that usually means people are drunk. Before I ask my question, I wanted to say thank you. Because I got into the fandom just about 5 years ago. I was very lonely, and some things were going on. You know, the usual stuff. And I found out about you and the show and Random Acts, and I started up an online auction as a charitable fundraiser for Random Acts. And because of that, over the last few years, I have met hundreds of people online, many of whom have become dear friends of mine. And that happened because of you, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'm so glad that that happened for you.
Can I plug my auction?
What?
Can I plug my auction?
Well, you're at the microphone.
All right, so everybody, it's ficfacers.com, and our auction is every June. We auction off customized fanfic and fan art. It's real fun. And so, my question is, I try to keep things as fun as possible. Any advice?
In your life, you try to be fun?
No, I mean the auction.
Oh, in your auction. How to make your auction fun?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done a strip auction?
I don't think I have the body.
It will be fun, trust me. Just do it.
My mother would see.
I guess it's funny I say that, and then I realize, oh, we actually have done strip auctions. I remember whoring out, I guess that's the term, Matt Cohen on stage. And it was like, if enough people chip in or bid or whatever, Matt will take off his shirt. Which they didn't realize he would take off his shirt anyway. But
So nudity.
Yeah, so nudity, you know, whatever, it's a fine line.
Okay, you were wise as always.
And prostitution, but, you know, somewhere in there.
Okay, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope that was helpful.
No, nudity, money, they go together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was working on, speaking of Random Acts, working on this show, Road Food, and we were down in the bayou and met a family that had their house completely picked up and dropped in the trees on the other side of the bayou, and all that was left was the foundation. The house was completely gone, and it was a single dad who didn't have insurance. The house had been passed down over generations from his great grandfather. So the house had no mortgage, but it was also uninsured, and they had no way to start over again. And Jensen's wife, Danielle, who has been on Supernatural, when Hurricane Harvey came along, she's on the board of Random Acts, and when Hurricane Harvey came along, she was like, let's rally together and put together a fundraiser for Hurricane Harvey victims, and we raised like $500,000 or more than that for hurricane relief, and we still had I called Random Acts, David Antonelli, who's our finance manager, and I was like, David, do we have any money left in the hurricane relief fund? And we still had $20,000 left, and so it was such a cool thing to be able to do, to be like, hey, to his dad, hey, we're going to give you some money to, help start you on your way to rebuilding here. And it was so nice just to be able to do that, and this fandom in general has been so incredibly generous and compassionate and empathetic, and it's been really nice to see those traits brought to bear to actually occasionally help people in a material way. I'm still talking to you even though you left the microphone a long time ago. I now see that.
Hi, Misha.
Hi.
My name's Leah, and...
Hi, Leah.
Hi. Well, the first thing I want to say is thank you so much for being here and also for all of your hard work. It's been a lot to me and my family. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My question, so I'm an actor, and I'm kind of starting out, and I wanted to find out what is either your best or your weirdest acting experience that you had when you first started?
Well, I had a weird audition experience when I was pretty new, where it was a chemistry read. I had been cast, but the female kind of semi-lead role that was going to play my girlfriend in this production had not been cast yet. And so we had a chemistry read, and so there were 4 women brought in to audition, and we made out. Super weird, in front of producers and whatnot. And it was like, we were all young enough as actors and naive enough that we didn't know, like, that's weird. I mean, I think we knew it was weird, but we thought, oh, I guess that's the business. And so that was a strange experience that would never happen now, I hopefully. Let's see, what other weird acting experiences did I have? When I was starting out, I moved to Los Angeles fairly quickly after really starting acting. I had been living in Washington, D.C., and I had a little bit of luck in a very short period of time. And I was like, well, this is easy. I'll move to Los Angeles and hit the big time. And so I went to L.A., and suddenly I wasn't a medium-sized fish in a small pond. I was a tiny fish in a huge lake, and it was challenging to break in. But I had a lot of opportunities at the very beginning, because when you're new, when you're like young and somewhat good-looking and new to Los Angeles, the casting director's like, yeah, I'll see the new guy once. Yeah, we'll bring him in. And so I had this audition for Dick Wolf, who was doing this series about White House interns. And I had been a White House intern. And so I was like, I'm a shoo-in for this. This is awesome. And I had taken one acting class at that point. And one of the things I had learned was you want to do some business. Something like that can help when you're doing business. Like you're washing dishes in a scene or something like that. If you can, occupy your hands, it actually can make the entire performance more natural. This was a little trick that I had picked up in an acting class. And so, in this scene, my character is getting ready to go to work, and I thought, what would be cool is if I was changing my shirt in this scene, and that way it'll give me some business, but I'll be natural, I'll be talking. So I had this white button-up Oxford on, and I had a t-shirt on underneath it, and I was like, all right, what I'm going to do in this scene is I'm going to take off this shirt. It's not a strip. I'm not stripping, but it's just business, And so I got into the audition. I had read once for the casting director without doing my business, but I had now had some preparation time, and I thought it through. I went into the room, and there were probably 9 or 10 producers, director, executives from the network, and we started the scene. They're filming it on a little camcorder, and I'm saying the lines, but they're a little bit hard. They're not coming quite as quickly as I would hope, but I'm muddling through. But partly it's because I'm having a hard time with my buttons. And I'm unbuttoning my shirt, and it's not like casual business, like washing a dish while chatting. It's like really clearly taking all of my concentration, because my hands were shaking a little bit, and I couldn't get the buttons. And then I got the buttons finally undone, and we're getting toward the end of the scene, and I was determined to get this fucking shirt off. But I didn't want to try to, everybody, well, I don't know if you know this, but on a men's dress shirt, the sleeve buttons can be quite challenging. Yeah. And I had my wits about me enough to realize I'm never going to get those buttons undone with one hand. So I decided I would just take the shirt off without undoing the buttons. And so I'm trying to get my arms out of the sleeves, but I'm still holding the audition material at the same time, which is part of what I hadn't factored into this whole thing, is I have the papers and I'm trying to button. Now I'm holding the papers and trying to thread my arm through the sleeve that I haven't unbuttoned. And long story short, the audition ends with the shirt off and inside out, but both sleeves still stuck to my wrists. It was so mortifying. And I had to leave the audition with the shirt just dragging. I did not get that part. So anyway, you have stuff like that to look forward to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you been going on auditions?
Yes, I'm trying. With the pandemic, but I'm trying to do it again.
Yeah, so think about doing stuff like that, because I think it adds a lot of texture to the performance. If you can get yourself sort of tangled up in something, it's a good way to stand out.
I will make sure I have a trench coat or something like that in my next audition.
That can slide off easily?
Oh, yeah.
Smart, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Wish I had thought of that. I don't know why I wasn't just taking a blazer off, why I decided I needed to take off something that required so much work. Yeah, there were, unfortunately, quite a few of those types of incidents in my auditioning history. I made some bad choices. I spent a weekend raging. I was really raging. That's an expression, which means drinking your face off. And I was probably 25, and it was a real party bender weekend out in Palm Springs, and I had an audition on Monday morning for Pearl Harbor. And I was going to be one of, I don't know, I never watched the movie, but I was going to be a soldier in Pearl Harbor, maybe. And I think I was maybe still a little bit drunk when I got to the audition Monday morning. And the casting director, who's a notoriously stern woman, had the camcorder in front of me. She said, okay. Misha, just state your name for the camera and the character. I don't remember what the character's name was, but I did know my name. And she said, okay, and if you could stand up straight, please. And apparently, I just leaned further away from straight. And she was like, no, that's not straight. Can you stand up straight? This is a soldier, you need to be able to stand up straight. And then I got in my head and I was like, oh shit, I was so out of it that I couldn't stand up straight. And she finally was like, okay. And I said, do you want me to do the lines? And she said, no. Anyway, I spent some time working on that subsequently, and eventually was able to add to my resume, can stand up straight.
Put that on your list of special skills.
Special skills, stand up straight.
Thank you, Misha.
Yeah.
Hi. First, I wanted to thank you for being a kind and gentle soul in the world. We need somebody like you out there. Also, my friend Rosa absolutely loves you. If you could just say hey to her, she would die.
I don't want to kill someone. No, I won't do it.
But my question
because
is...
I'm an asshole.
My question is...
Sorry, Rosa.
What's your...
Now I feel bad. Hi, Rosa, wherever you are. Are you out there? Hi. How's it going? Okay. You seem pretty calm and collected. This is not as advertised. Okay, good talking to you. Hi.
My question real quick, what's a favorite place that you visited for your new show, Road Foods?
I have visited a lot of fascinating places. It has been really interesting for me because I'm visiting pockets of the country that I would never otherwise have occasion to visit with. It's kind of an interesting setup. Basically, I'm going to different places and I'm spending a lot of time talking to, like, down in the bayou, I spent a day getting toured around by this fascinating guy. The day started with me knocking on his door, having been late because of traffic, having not had breakfast. I mentioned that, he's like, well, come on in, I'll make you breakfast. We went and got some eggs from his chicken coop and made breakfast in his kitchen, and then I proceeded to spend the whole day with him and he toured me around and introduced me to people in his community. We had never met one another before, and by the end of the day, he was like, this has felt like therapy. I feel like I actually have, maybe gotten, really talked about some important things to me, and I felt the same way. It was like, this felt like therapy to me too. And I'm getting, so it's this artificial construct in a way, like getting sort of plunged into people's lives and worlds. But we've agreed over the phone in advance to spend time with one another, and so we do, and it's been lovely and illuminating, and I've learned a lot about, not only these pockets and communities around the country, but also about myself in the process. So that's been fascinating. It's hard to say what my favorite place has been because so many of them have been so fascinating. I spent some time last week in Arizona on an Apache reservation with some indigenous people, and it was so illuminating for me. And I realized I've never spent any significant amount of time outside of a gift shop on a reservation before, and I cannot overstate how much I learned in such a short period of time. So that was fascinating and one of my favorites. I was also on an island. I'm an outspoken, fairly political person and have been not the world's biggest Trump supporter over the years. But I went to this island off the coast of Virginia called Tangier Island, where in the last election cycle, there are only 400 people that live there. In the last election cycle, 240 people voted, and 5 of them voted for Biden. It's like literally 98% voted for Trump. And I found these people were completely fascinating to me and lovely human beings, and just from a completely different cultural construct than my own. Tangier was actually a fascinating place to be as well. They have their own kind of dialect, which is so cool. There are little pockets of communities in this country where there are unique dialects for single towns, which of course is true, but would be hard to actually wrap your head around if you were just reading about it on Wikipedia. So yeah, there you go. I don't know, I'm just rambling. Thanks. Hi.
Hi. On Supernatural, one of the monsters is a djinn or genie that when he captures you, you get to live out your greatest wish in a world constructed by him. I'm wanting to know, if you were under this power, what would your wish world look like?
That's a big question. I don't know. I guess I would wish for, I don't know. I think I would wish for something like some sort of inner peace, which sounds very trite when I say it out loud, but I am somebody that I think, like many people, am chronically, persistently dissatisfied. I'm always looking for the next thing, or I'm always plagued by the question, what should I be doing right now to be productive? And I would love to be in a world where, in my own head, I was just okay being wherever I was at that moment, being in the moment, being in the present, and maybe probably playing with my kids. That's a very earnest answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. So if you could have a non-traditional or obscure superpower, so like not flight or invisibility, but something random, what would it be?
Well, I've always wanted to be able to shed my entire skin in one piece.
Seems like a useful skill to have.
How about you?
Mine's kind of, okay, well, I would like to be able to know, like in the moment, like with my kids, like these are the good old days, like know in the moment and then be able to like take it in more, rather than look back and say, oh, those were the good old days. I want to know in that time, like these are the good old days, these are the best days.
That's a great superpower. That's sort of like what you kind of copying what I just said, though.
It's the best form of flattery, I hear.
Yeah, I have some, I wrote a poem. It's actually the last poem in my book of poetry, which is titled aptly The Last Poem. But it's about noticing what those lasts are. Like when is the last time? It was actually spurred, that poem was sort of spurred by getting peed on in bed and being angry about it, which I think is justifiable. But then realizing, like, someday they'll never do that again. And even that is sweet. Even that is one of those things, even that is the good old days, you know? When I first was, I was not a good father at first, because I was too impatient, and I was ready for the parenting to get more fun. But I remember I used to put Mason to sleep every night, and we were those like new parents who didn't figure out that you can just like put a kid down and eventually they will go to sleep, and you don't have to like. But every night I would put her in this little baby carrier, and I'd hold her and I'd bounce her until she fell asleep. But rather than like savoring that while it was happening, like your child on your chest that is like being bounced to sleep is actually the good old days. But I would do that, and then and I would count. Like, I would count down from 200 backwards in my head, because I figured that like by the time I got down to 1, she would probably be asleep and I could put her down. But it was like, I wanted it to be over. I wanted to get through it so I could get on to the next thing, get on to the, whatever adult behavior that I was going to demonstrate after 8 p.m. that evening, instead of appreciating that moment. And at some point along the way, I did realize, oh, this is all fleeting, and I need to savor whatever I possibly can of it. And so now, for instance, I do love putting my kids to sleep, because I know I won't get to do it for long. Already my son doesn't want me to put him to sleep. Isn't that annoying? And I tell him, don't be a little shit. Just let me...
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello.
Just let me read you a fucking bedtime story.
So Supernatural is known for having an awesome soundtrack, but I'm wondering if real life had a soundtrack, what would you want your theme song to be?
Probably, why are there so many songs about rainbows? What are you wearing?
I'm a Xana. I'm Sparkle.
Oh.
A manicorn, I guess.
A what?
A manicorn.
Manicorn? What is that?
Xana help troubled children, so they're sort of like imaginary friends.
Oh, is that from my show? Cool. Thanks. Hi.
Hi. My question is, what would you like us to take from your new show? And would you feature any of your former co-stars on your show?
I would love to feature former co-stars on my show. We haven't actually, I don't think anyone has joined me on the road yet from the show, but that would be fun to do. We actually talked about that early on, and there were, we might do it if we keep doing the show for another season. We might do that. And I guess I hope that people might watch it and take away some of the things that I've taken away, which are that it's hard to hate people when you know them. Talking to people, people who are different from you, can be quite illuminating. And it's illuminating in different ways, because I think I started out thinking I was going to discover that we're all more the same than we are different. And while that's true, we're also all really different. And for me, that second component has been really illuminating. I've realized, like, oh, these other cultures are very different from the culture that I was raised in. And there are really valuable things in a lot of them that I kind of want to bring into my own life. Like this island, Tangier, the family is everything for those people, and no one ever leaves everyone that lives there has great-great-great-grandparents from that island and has deep ties to their family that are so important to them. And everything else is tertiary. And you know, I learned things from my Apache tour guide that like really opened my mind to a different universe of possibilities. So we all share these characteristics of human sameness, but at the same time, there is this incredible wealth of diversity in the country that learning about actually makes, well, it certainly makes me a better person. So I guess I would hope that those messages would resonate with the audience as well. It might not, but you know, fuck them. It helped me, and that's all I really care about.
It's such a great speech. I was really feeling it. I just realized what's great about American people and everything, and really I just care about myself. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend, Misha Collins. So what's happening now? Don't hurt yourself, storming for the exits. It's an intermission, another intermission. I thought earlier was an intermission, but it wasn't. This really is an intermission. And then you're gonna have a costume contest. That's gonna happen after the intermission. And then more stuff. I mean, I'm taking some photos with Jensen pretty soon. I know, I'm excited too. He never lets me take a picture with him. And then we'll be back. We'll be back. We got Mark Pellegrino later today. Jared and Jensen will be arriving shortly if they're not here already. So you'll be able to smell them. They smell like heaven. So have fun. I'll see you in a second.